Finishing a project is really hard. You have to look at all the details to make sure it's nice and polished. You have the main frame done, you have your trim, now it's time to fill all those nail holes. These are the two that I use. You can use the wood filler or the plastic wood. The plastic wood goes on pink, dries white, and the wood filler is stainable. So it's whatever you prefer. They both work really great. Once your filler has dried, then you have to sand to make everything smooth. When you walk into my house, this is the first thing you see. So hopefully it'll be a good impact once I'm done. You can sand by either hand. I usually wrap it around a sponge sander and get a rough grain, and you can do it by hand, but it's gonna take a long time. You have electric sanders as well. The Dremel is really good. It can get into the little nooks and crannies on the corners of the shelves. And then you have your electric sander that's round, but it's really hard to get to those corners. For this project, I'm gonna have to go with the Dremel. It's a lot faster. The shelves are pretty narrow, so the Dremel will do just fine. In order to pin, you have to remove all of the doors and hinges. Make sure you put them all in a Ziploc bag with screws and everything, just to ensure that you don't lose any of them, because once you put these back together and you're missing one screw, it's just gonna mess up your whole project and you're gonna have to run to Home Depot and buy new screws. So make sure you just take care of them, don't lose them, put them in a Ziploc bag. I wanted to number the doors just in case when I put them back in, there's going to be a difference in heights. I ended up losing the tag, so it didn't matter. I really wanted a spray gun to have a smooth finish, and luckily my niece got me this one for my birthday. It had good reviews, and I really wanted to try it on the doors and everything just to have a very smooth finish. I usually buy the marquee paint from Home Depot. It already has a primer in it, and I've painted a whole living room with one can and still had paint left over, so I thought it would be a good choice for this project. Unfortunately, for this project, I did see some yellowing because I didn't use an all primer paint. So I did have to go back and get a primer and prime all the doors. When you start painting, you're going to start noticing the grain in the wood of the cabinets. So you're going to have to sand, paint, sand, paint, sand, paint again. If you don't want to go through the trouble of sanding and painting between coats, you can get the stock cabinets that are already painted, so you can skip that altogether. They are more pricey, these are more economical, but it's up to you. Remember, I wanted to hide all the cords so that you don't see them. Well, I put this little outlet way too close to the edge. I thought it was going to be helpful. So I had to go back, cut another hole, and move it over just a bit. And now I had to figure out a way to close that original square that I had originally cut. Here I'm just trying to figure out what I can do to cover that square, and I went back into the garage and found the original cut from that first square, and I just put it back in, added some wood glue and a little 1/4 of an inch MDF board on the bottom to glue it to, and just added a clamp, and it dried and problem solved. I didn't like the texture of the wall behind the bookshelf, so I decided to also add the shiplap to the back of the bookcases, and I really love how that turned out. I bought the shiplap from Home Depot. It's out of MDF board, so I would not recommend them for the kitchens or bathrooms. but they interlocked flat in the back and the gap in the front is already there. So you don't need a nickel or anything to add those spacers. I started taping the inside of the cabinets because I didn't want those painted. They already have a nice smooth finish to them. So I just wanted to paint the trim and everything else on this cabinet. I used a trash bag and cut it in half, and then I just taped it to the edges so that I can still get that inside trim painted for those cabinets. So here I am late at night priming the front of the doors. Don't skip the primer, just get it. I know it's a little bit of extra money, but it'll be worth it in the end. So I started setting up plastic tarps to use the spray gun. Here, unfortunately, you can't see me using the spray gun because of the tarp blew over. But it was actually a fail. I couldn't gauge the consistency of the paint and the water ratio to water it down. So I just ended up using a foam roller to paint all of the cabinets. And then I was doing a little light sanding in between the coats and then going back and painting again. You're gonna hear that a lot in this video. It's all about sanding, painting, sanding, painting, sanding, painting until it's finally done and smooth. Remember about sanding and painting? Well, here we go again with the doors. The back side of the doors and the front side of the doors all need to be sanded and painted once again. This is the foam roller that I use. It doesn't leave much texture at all when you're painting, so it does leave a nice smooth finish. And wrap it in plastic when you're done doing one coat so that you can go back and use the same roller again and it'll be nice and fresh. I added the sconce lights to the top while there was another coat drying, and they were so beautiful. They're actually very cheap. They're two for like $48 on Amazon. I'm almost done and I just need to add the baseboards, and I ended up going with just a smooth 1x4 board that's already primed at Home Depot. They run for like $9. Unfortunately, I made a rookie mistake and only got one 1x4 board, and I needed two. I thought for some reason each side was 4 feet, and they're actually 6 feet each side. So I needed two of those boards. So what I did was I went in the garage and I found some scraps, and I actually found some 1x4s left over from another project, and I just did pocket holes and put them together to make the other side, and I just had enough for that one side. Once I added them together, I just used some drywall compound mud and put it on the seams, let that dry, sanded them down, and you wouldn't even know that it was not a one solid board. Here's a close-up of what it looks like once it's already sanded down, and as you can see, you can't even see the seams. Then I just did one more coat of paint on that and was ready to be installed. This is the last board and the last finishing touch of this project. And here it is, all finished. I could not be more proud. I did this all by myself, and I can't wait to get started on more projects around this house. Thank you guys for subscribing to the channel, and there'll be more stuff.